Alright, YouTube. This is the Rishi Maze Fanatic, and it has been a month since my last upload. Today we're going to continue with my Clone Wars content because that's the era that I really love. I've done Anakin Padme's romance. Well, that's the Rise of the Empire era, but not exactly the Clone Wars because the war hadn't started yet by Attack of the Clones, as well as my analysis on Dooku last time. That was part of the Clone Wars content that I'm doing. What more? So yeah, this is just kind of continuing that. I don't usually plan these videos. I just get the ideas and I write them down on paper. Some of them. Um, those are kind of scrapped if I don't feel like it's worthy for a video, maybe. So today we're gonna be looking at Clone Wars content. Well, really my critique. It's not exactly a rant because I'm not going to be complaining for 10 minutes. It's mostly a critique about the mostly the canon universe. So I'm going to bring in some Legends material as well during this time period of the galaxy. It's basically about how much content and material there really is, how cluttered the Clone Wars are, and if you just do research and just look, you can tell that the authors did not know when to stop writing. It's like a lot of authors just kept coming back to this time period, even today. Not exactly this year, but this past year. Ever since the early 2000s, the authors have been just constantly returning to this era. Another era that's cluttered in the Legends continuity is the Rebellion era, but that's mostly because Vader stuff, Vader comics and a few Vader novels. Well, many Vader novels. Many of them I haven't read, like the last of the Jedi, what Darth Vader and the Cry of Shadows, and Darth Vader in the Ninth Assassin, as well as just a lot of Vader comics. The Darth Vader in Last Command. That's the Rebellion era is cluttered with stuff like that. But I have yet to read that, but it's just, I wanted to point that out as well, that the Clone Wars is not the only era that the authors didn't know when to stop writing. But now, let's go back to the main topic. That was a different segue, turning back to normal. So, the Clone Wars rant is mostly about the canon material, how there's so much of it. Like what I wrote down, what I researched, and what I have from memory throughout the years, that people are just constantly writing and writing and writing, finding more room to insert stories into this 3-year conflict. I think this is a 3-year conflict because it's 22 BBY to 29. Yeah. So we have, of course, the famous TCW, the Clone Wars seasons 1 through 6, and heck, if you want to, go ahead and include 7 and 8, because it's out there on the internet of story ideas and arcs that we sadly didn't get to see. TCW. Then we have the lesser known things such as Grievous Attacks. That is a novel that basically combines what I think a Downfall of a Droid and no, I'm sorry, I can't remember what episodes this combines. It's a few of them. I think it is put into words in Grievous Attacks. You also have the Clone Wars film novelization and the movie itself. You have Clone Wars Battle Tales. The list goes on. I'm about to tell you how much more material there is with the aforementioned ones. There are Stories of Light and Dark, the Age of Republic comics, the Clone Wars novellas, Clone Wars Wild Space, Clone Wars No Prisoners, Clone Wars Stealth and Siege, Son of Dathomir, Jedi of the Republic comics, which features Mace Windu with that droid that Mace Windu was dueling, I think. Like, it was released years ago. I didn't read the entire thing, so it's kind of a foggy. I didn't care enough to read about it. And then there's Dark Disciple and Darth Maul Death Sentence. And there's more that I can't even name right now. Oh yeah, something like Dark Vengeance or something. There's also that. I think that's part of Battletoads. Maybe, I'm not too sure on those, but it's just so much material, and it's like the characters don't even get time to go to the bathroom because there's so much that happens in these 3 years. It's like they did it. Somebody did a mission every day. It's like Kenobi and Skywalker did a mission every day or went somewhere every single day. They didn't get a chance to rest. If you just go with all this material, and it's like, wow, was the war really that bad? Imagine doing something every day during a 3-year conflict. There's no relaxation for these guys, realistically. And it makes Maul kind of even more of a sad character because they keep on giving him comics and stories and stuff, and it's just like, why didn't he stay dead on Naboo? Just they just dragged his story on and on. It's like he accomplished some, but like, stop continuing his story. Like, they keep on putting out comics in between the episodes of TCW, seasons 4 and 5, I think. What would he appear in? I don't remember. And that's that. So there's a lot of novels to read and definitely a lot of comics that just clutter that whole war. It's much less, many less stories within the Legends timeline, which is it's a bit more organized than what we have now for canon. In Legends, you have of course the Obsession comics. I love the Battle of Boz Pity. I think where Mace and Dooku kind of have a brief duel, and then it's Ventress in the tank, and she bursts out of the tank and to find Kenobi and Skywalker. And there's Grievous with I think he kills Soon Bates and Adi Gallia. Yeah, that was really cool stuff in the Obsession comics. And then of course there's the 2003 series and its tie-ins. I think Mace Windu and Saesee Tiin are in there. Obi-Wan and Anakin have their own thing. And then there's also Grievous fighting Dirge and Ventress in tie-in comics. And there's Shatterpoint, of course, Yoda Dark Rendezvous, the Revenge of the Sith novelization, the Republic comics, which is like, the Battle of Coruscant or something. I haven't read those. I haven't read all of those, but I'm aware that they did occur, and they are a real thing. And there's also the Jedi comics. I have read Jedi Count Dooku, which is awesome. I really do love what he does in that novel. He's basically it opens with like Jedi and clones on a ship, and Dooku's there as well. He's like, all Jedi are brothers and sisters, and he says, keep the Jedi, kill the clones. I love his entire character in that whole issue. And there's also Jedi Shaak Ti, Mace Windu. I really do love that, and it's much less content. In the Legends continuity, in the war, the characters have time to breathe. They really do have time to themselves, realistically, instead of like what's going on in canon. What's going on in canon is that our heroes, our protagonists, are out all the time pushing back against the Separatists. And it's like, can they truly get a break? Can they do something else? Because there's no way. Authors keep finding these like small gaps in the words, like, oh, let's insert a story here. The exact placement is unknown, so we can still put more stories there. And it's like, this era has kind of been done to hell. Really. It really has. The Rebellion era in Legends, it almost gets there with the Vader comics, because writers did not know when to stop writing about him. So it's close. And in canon, it's pretty darn close too, because they keep on coming out with Vader comics. They keep on coming out with stories to tell with Vader. Before Luke, mostly. Before he finds out he has a son, mostly, I think. Or before he encounters Luke in Empire Strikes Back. They just comic after comic after comic. They find a way to say, oh, well, let's make Vader do this before before he meets Luke. It's like, also Vader he can't go to the bathroom either, or do something very simple. He can't rest for a day. He's always doing something. And that sort of tells you writers, it doesn't seem like the writers are using any new, aren't making space for new things. Of course, there's the High Republic that we have now, but and of course there's the sequel trilogy, but books and stuff, it's mostly about eras that should have been done already. Why haven't we moved on to something new? Why are we still stuck in the Rise of the Empire era? Why are we still stuck in the Rebellion era? It's concerning. Um, and I've also kind of almost fell victim to that too. I sometimes write or type rather like some story ideas, and some of them are in the Clone Wars, and I'm just like, oh God, if I ever, if a novel is ever published that I wrote someday in its Clone Wars era, I'll be adding to that. I'll be like, oh crap, I'm sitting here critiquing the era, and I've added to it. So I've had that thought as well. Um, like one day, like if I get a novel published, will it be in the Clone Wars era? And I have kind of have fan fiction in my Google Docs about more stories added to the Clone Wars era. Like, what was that business on Cato Neimoidia? The canon version, not Labyrinth of Evil. What was the Battle of Coruscant in canon? What did Grievous do? How did he capture Palpatine? I want questions answered in canon, which we don't have. So I think those are just my thoughts, or critiques rather, of what's really going on. What's been continuing for years and years, with these eras, mostly the Clone Wars era and a bit of the Rebellion era as well. And let me flip the page, and that wraps it up. I try to keep these videos short and simple. I really do, because it seems like with the views, me looking at the views, you guys aren't a fan of really lengthy videos, so I try to keep these really small and straight to the point. But as we grow, I'll probably have longer videos, because obviously more subscribers will view them in the future. And that is it. Have a good night, guys.